Have you ever wondered how many classic muscle cars were destroyed to create one of TV's most iconic vehicles? What if I told you the Dukes of Hazzard obliterated over 300 Dodge Chargers and one surviving General Lee sold for $10 million?
Holy shit!
This legendary orange car hides secrets that will shock even the biggest fans. Today, we're counting down 20 weird facts about the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard that will completely change how you see this iconic TV car. From welded doors to miniature jumps, from nationwide car buying sprees to stunt driver injuries, these revelations are absolutely wild. So buckle up, hit that like button if you love classic TV and muscle cars, and let's jump into the crazy world of Hazzard County's most famous resident. Number 20. The General Lee was almost a different car entirely. When the Dukes of Hazzard was in development, the General Lee didn't exist yet. Producers were considering several different vehicles for the Duke boys' signature ride. A 1969 Camaro was on the list. They looked at Mustangs and even considered a Plymouth Roadrunner. The decision came down to availability and visual impact. The 1969 Dodge Charger had aggressive styling with that distinctive recessed grille and flying buttress rear window. It looked fast standing still. More importantly, Chargers were relatively cheap and plentiful in 1978. Muscle cars had fallen out of favor during the gas crisis. You could buy running Chargers for under $1,000. The producers needed cheap because they knew they'd be destroying cars weekly. The Charger's combination of looks, availability, and low cost made it the perfect choice. Number 19. They destroyed between 300 to 350 Chargers during production. Here's the statistic that makes classic car enthusiasts cry. The Dukes of Hazzard destroyed somewhere between 300 and 350 1969 Dodge Chargers during its 7-season run. That's not an exaggeration. Every single week, the show demolished one or more classic muscle cars. Some episodes destroyed multiple Chargers in a single shoot. The destruction was systematic and total. High-speed jumps would shatter frames and bend chassis beyond repair. Landing impacts would destroy suspensions completely. Many cars were so damaged they were simply scrapped. A few were stripped for usable parts before disposal. This wholesale destruction of American muscle cars happened when nobody thought these vehicles would become valuable collectibles. In 1979, a '69 Charger was just an old used car. Today, each destroyed Charger would be worth $100,000 or more. The show eliminated a significant percentage of all existing 1969 Chargers. Number 18. The orange color is called flame red, not orange. Everyone calls the General Lee orange, but the official paint color is actually Corvette Flame Red. This was a GM color, not a Mopar shade. Why use a Chevrolet color on a Dodge? Simple practicality. Flame Red was readily available and looked perfect on camera. The color had the right brightness and saturation for 1970s television technology. Under studio lights and natural sunlight, it photographed consistently. The paint appeared vibrant without being garish. Mopar's actual orange offerings from that era didn't test as well on screen. Some were too dull, others too bright. Flame Red hit the sweet spot. The production bought it by the gallon. Every replacement General Lee got the same Corvette Flame Red treatment. The irony of a Dodge wearing Chevrolet paint wasn't lost on car enthusiasts, but it worked perfectly for television. Number 17. Warner Brothers bought every 1969 Charger they could find. Once the show was greenlit, Warner Brothers launched a nationwide buying campaign. They sent scouts across America hunting for 1969 Chargers. They scoured classified ads, visited used car lots, and knocked on doors where Chargers sat in driveways. The studio paid cash, usually between $500 and $1,500 per car. They didn't care about condition. Running or not, rusty or clean, they bought everything. The goal was stockpiling enough Chargers to keep production running. This buying spree had unintended consequences. The sudden demand drove up prices nationwide. Chargers that sat unsold for years suddenly had value. The studio created artificial scarcity. By the show's third season, finding cheap chargers became difficult. Warner Brothers had already bought most available examples. This aggressive purchasing changed the classic car market permanently. The '69 Charger went from forgotten muscle car to sought-after collectible almost overnight. Number 16. Most were actually 1968, models disguised as 1969s. As genuine 1969 Chargers became scarce and expensive, the production team got creative. They started buying 1968 Chargers instead. The 68 and 69 models were very similar, but had distinct differences. The 1968 had a different grille with round parking lights. The 1969 featured a more aggressive split grille design. The taillights were different too. So how did they fake it? They swapped parts between model years. They'd take 1969 grills and bolt them onto 1968 bodies. They'd swap tail light panels if needed. Sometimes they'd use whatever was available and hope viewers wouldn't notice. Most didn't. In wide shots during jumps, nobody could tell a 68 from a 69. Only in close-ups did the differences become apparent. Sharp-eyed Mopar enthusiasts spotted the inconsistencies, but casual viewers never knew. The show destroyed nearly as many 68 Chargers as 69s. Number 15. The Confederate flag wasn't controversial until later. In 1979, when the Dukes premiered, the Confederate flag on the General Lee's roof was seen differently. The show presented it as a symbol of Southern heritage and rebellion against authority. Most viewers accepted it within that context. The Duke boys were portrayed as good-hearted rebels, not racists. The flag was part of the car's identity, along with the name and orange paint. But cultural perceptions evolved over decades. By the 2000s, understanding of the flag's painful history had shifted significantly. Critics pointed out its association with slavery and racism. Networks began removing the show from syndication or digitally editing the flag out. Warner Bros. Stopped licensing General Lee merchandise with the Confederate flag. The controversy reached its peak in 2015 when major retailers pulled Duke's products entirely. Cast members have expressed mixed feelings, some defending the show's intent while acknowledging the symbol's problematic nature. Number 14. The horn played Dixie but required special permission. That distinctive Dixie horn became as iconic as the General Lee itself. But using that melody required special licensing. Dixie is a copyrighted musical composition. Every time it played on screen, the show had to pay royalties to the rights holders. For a weekly series, this added up significantly. The production negotiated a bulk licensing deal to reduce costs per episode. The actual horn mechanism was custom-made for each General Lee. Standard car horns couldn't produce the melody. They installed electronic musical horns, similar to ice cream truck horns. Each one was programmed to play the Dixie tune. The horns had to be loud enough to hear during outdoor filming. They became such an integral part of the show that episodes without the horns seemed wrong. That simple musical cue signaled the General Lee's arrival better than any visual. It was instant recognition in audio form. Number 13. The doors were welded shut for safety. Here's why Bo and Luke always climbed through the windows. It wasn't just for style. The General Lee's doors were permanently welded shut. This modification was required for safety reasons. Every stunt car had a full roll cage installed inside. These steel tube structures protected drivers during rollovers and crashes. But installing a proper roll cage meant the door openings had to be reinforced. The cage tubes ran through the door areas. Making the doors functional would compromise the cage's structural integrity, so they welded them permanently closed. This created the show's most iconic visual, the window slide. Actors had to enter and exit through the windows every single time. John Schneider and Tom Wopat became incredibly practiced at it. They could slide through smoothly in costume, even in tight jeans. What started as a safety requirement became the General Lee's signature move. Number 12. John Schneider did many of his own stunts. John Schneider wasn't content to let stunt doubles have all the fun. He insisted on performing many of his own stunts throughout the series. He did the window slides himself every time. He drove in many of the chase sequences. He even did some of the less dangerous jumps personally. Schneider wanted authenticity and was willing to take risks for it. This commitment came with consequences. He suffered numerous injuries over 7 seasons, bruised ribs from rough window entries, whiplash from hard landings. He cracked a bone in his foot during one stunt. The insurance company eventually restricted what he could do. Certain jumps and high-speed crashes were deemed too dangerous. Professional stunt drivers took over for these sequences, but whenever possible, Schneider was behind the wheel. His dedication added genuine excitement to the show. Viewers were often watching the actual actor in peril, not a double. Number 11. The 01 racing number was added last minute. The General Lee's iconic 01 wasn't part of the original design. Early concept sketches showed the Confederate flag on the roof, but no door numbers. Someone suggested adding a racing number to reinforce the Moonrunner heritage. Stock car racing was huge in the South, and it made sense for the Duke Boys car. They chose 01 for multiple reasons. It referenced General Lee being number 1. It connected to Confederate General Robert E. Lee. It looked good graphically on the doors. The numbers were applied using simple vinyl cutouts initially. Later cars got painted numbers for durability. The size and style of the numbers actually varied slightly between different General Lees. Some had taller numbers, others wider. The 01 became so identified with the car that it appears on every piece of merchandise. Remove the numbers, and it's just an orange Charger. Add the 01, and it's instantly the General Lee. Number 10. They used miniatures for the most dangerous jumps. Not every General Lee jump was full scale. Some of the most spectacular aerial stunts used detailed miniature cars. The special effects team built scale model Chargers, usually at 1:8 or 1:6 scale. These miniatures were incredibly detailed with working suspensions and accurate paint jobs. They'd film the miniatures jumping over miniature landscapes. By controlling camera speed and angles, they made the small cars look full-sized. This technique allowed impossible stunts without risking drivers or destroying real cars. A miniature could flip end over end and explode spectacularly. They could launch miniatures at angles that would kill a real driver. The footage was then edited seamlessly with full-scale shots. A real car would start the jump, cut to miniature mid-flight, then cut back to real car landing or crashing. Most viewers never noticed the switch. The miniature work saved money and lives while delivering spectacular visuals. Number 9. The engine sounds were dubbed from different cars. That powerful roar when the General Lee accelerates? That's not actually what those Chargers sounded like. Most of the stunt cars had basic 318 or 383 cubic inch engines with stock exhausts. They sounded decent but not dramatic enough for television. The sound design team recorded various high-performance engines specifically for dubbing. They used 440 and Hemi-powered Mopars with aggressive exhaust systems. They even recorded some big-block Chevrolets for certain sequences. In post-production, they'd replace the actual on-set audio with these recorded sounds. Different scenes got different engine notes depending on the action. A casual cruise might get a mellow burble. A full-throttle chase would feature an aggressive snarl. Quick acceleration scenes had tire-squealing launches with roaring engines. None of it was what the cameras actually recorded. The dubbed sounds made every General Lee seem like it had a race-tuned Hemi under the hood. Number 8. Stunt drivers suffered serious injuries. The men who actually jumped the General Lee paid a physical price. Stunt driving in the late 1970s and early 1980s lacked modern safety standards. The impacts were brutal and injuries were common. Broken ribs were almost routine from hard landings. Multiple drivers suffered concussions during filming. One stunt driver broke his back during a particularly bad landing and missed an entire season recovering. Whiplash injuries were constant. The violence of hitting the ground after 20 or 30-foot jumps was extraordinary. Even with roll cages and harnesses, drivers absorbed tremendous force. Some suffered long-term damage to their spines and joints. Yet, they kept doing it. The pay was good, and the work was steady. Every week brought new jumps and new potential injuries. These professional drivers were the real heroes of the General Lee's legend. Their willingness to risk their bodies made the show's spectacular action possible. Number 7. The show created a Charger shortage that still exists. The Dukes of Hazzard fundamentally changed the classic car market for 1969 Chargers. Before the show, these cars were common and cheap. After the show destroyed hundreds and created massive demand, they became rare and expensive. Today, finding a genuine 1969 Charger is difficult. Finding an affordable one is nearly impossible. The show consumed roughly 10% of all 1969 Chargers ever built. Those destroyed cars are gone forever. The remaining examples are hoarded by collectors who know their value. A numbers-matching 1969 Charger RT can sell for over $150,000. Even project cars needing full restoration command $30,000 or more. This scarcity has spawned an entire restoration industry. Companies specialize in rebuilding Chargers to General Lee specifications. Some use 1968 models or other years as donor cars. The ironic legacy is that a TV show celebrating the Charger nearly drove it to extinction in the classic car market. Number 6. Some episodes use the same jump footage repeatedly. Budget constraints meant the production couldn't film new jumps for every single episode. They began recycling jump footage from previous episodes. The editing team became skilled at disguising reused shots. They'd flip footage horizontally so the jump appeared from a different angle. They'd edit in different approach and landing shots around the same mid-air footage. Color timing would be adjusted to match different lighting conditions. Sometimes they'd slightly speed up or slow down the footage. Most viewers never noticed the same jump appearing in multiple episodes. Only dedicated fans watching syndicated reruns spotted the repetition. Certain jumps were reused a dozen times or more across the series. This practice saved money and preserved cars. Why destroy another Charger when you already had the footage? It was economically sensible, even if purists considered it cheating. The reused jumps became a trivia point among hardcore Dukes fans. Number 5. The license plate number changed throughout series. The General Lee's most famous license plate read CNH320 from Georgia. But watch closely and you'll see it wasn't consistent. Different cars in the fleet had different plates. Some had Georgia plates, others had California plates visible in shots. The number CNH320 appears most frequently and is considered canonical. But continuity errors abound throughout the series. Sometimes the plate is missing entirely. Other times, completely different numbers appear. In close-ups, it might read CNH320. In a stunt shot seconds later, it's a different plate. This happened because different General Lees were used for different purposes. The hero car for close-ups had the correct plate. Stunt cars often had whatever plates came with the donor Charger. Nobody thought viewers would freeze frame and analyze plate numbers. These continuity errors reveal the production's practical approach. Getting the shot mattered more than perfect consistency across every single detail. Number 4. Warner Bros. Still owns several screen-used cars. Not every General Lee was destroyed. Warner Bros. Preserved several screen-used cars in their archives. These survivors represent different eras and purposes from the show. They kept at least one pristine hero car used for close-ups and promotional appearances. They retained 1 or 2 stunt cars that survived their episodes relatively intact. These cars are stored in climate-controlled facilities. They're maintained in working condition and occasionally brought out for special events. Warner Bros. Has loaned them to museums for automotive exhibitions. They've appeared at car shows and Dukes of Hazzard conventions. The studio recognizes these cars as valuable intellectual property. Each one is documented with provenance showing which episodes it appeared in. Modern estimates value each genuine screen-used General Lee at well over $1 million. Warner Bros. Has no intention of selling them. They're corporate assets and pieces of television history worth preserving indefinitely. Number 3. A Hemi. General Lee was actually rare. Television mythology suggested that General Lee had a powerful Hemi engine. The show implied this through engine sounds and performance. But actual Hemi-powered General Lees were extremely rare, possibly non-existent. Here's why. Real Hemi Chargers were already valuable in 1979. Using them as disposable stunt cars made no financial sense. Most General Lees had basic 318 cubic inch V8s or mid-range 383 engines. These were cheap, plentiful, and adequate for the stunts. The 318 provided enough power to break the tires loose for burnouts. It could accelerate the car up launch ramps. That's all they needed. Actual performance was secondary to appearance. The production cared more about how the car looked jumping than how fast it went. Any suggestion of Hemi power was pure television fiction. Some restored General Lee tribute cars today have authentic Hemis, but the originals from the show? They were working with whatever engines came cheap in the donor chargers. Number 2, the most expensive jump cost, over $30,000 in damage. One particular stunt stands out for its spectacular destruction and cost. The production decided to jump the General Lee over a massive gap, landing on a downslope. They'd attempted similar jumps before, but wanted something bigger. This required extensive preparation and multiple cameras. The stunt driver accelerated to nearly 80 miles per hour before hitting the ramp. The Charger flew over 150 feet through the air. The landing was catastrophic. The front end hit first, compressing the suspension completely. The frame buckled on impact. The engine was driven backward into the firewall. All 4 wheels broke off or collapsed. The car skidded to a halt as a complete wreck. They got the shot in one take, which was fortunate because the car was totaled beyond any repair. Insurance assessments valued the damage at over $30,000 in 1982 dollars. Number 1. One original General Lee sold for $10 million. Here's the fact that proves the General Lee's legendary status. In 2012, a documented screen-used General Lee from the first season sold at private auction for $10 million. Yes, $10 million for a modified 1969 Charger. This wasn't just any General Lee. Extensive documentation proved it was one of the original cars, used in multiple episodes, and driven by both Schneider and Wopat. The provenance was impeccable, with photographs matching body damage to specific episodes. The buyer, a private collector whose identity remains confidential, wanted an authentic piece of American television history. This sale price eclipsed virtually every other TV or movie car ever sold. It demonstrated that the General Lee transcended being merely a vehicle. And there you have it. 20 wild facts about the General Lee that even hardcore Dukes fans didn't know. Which fact shocked you most? Drop a comment, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Yeehaw!